Hi, welcome back to part 2 of our series here. We have to cut them down to 15 minutes each so I can post them conveniently to YouTube and make them easier for you to watch. If you remember, the last things we covered was decimals. We talked about tenths and hundredths and all that kind of stuff, which was fine. And we talked about all the other stuff, the hundreds, thousands, 10,000s, and how it makes it into a fraction. Now, I realize that when I say the word fraction, obviously you get a feeling inside. You get definitely grumpy cat on me as far as fractions. But I'm going to try to label fractions in a way that are going to make them a lot easier to understand, and that's this. A fraction is nothing more than a division problem that got turned top to bottom. Here's what I mean. 3 divided by 4 simply is 3/4, meaning I have 3 and I have to divide it by 4 people. So 3 divided by 4. Everyone's going to get 3/4 of something. If I say there's 2 people and I'm dividing 2 items, and I'm dividing by 7 people, everyone gets 2/7. If I say I have 4 pizzas and 9 people, okay, how do you split it up? Well, everyone's going to get 4/9 of a pizza. If I have you pick the item. 1 of something and there's 4 people, 1/4. And so on and so forth. And that makes life a lot easier because that's what a fraction really is. All a fraction is simply a division problem that got stacked top to bottom. So we're going to talk about long division. And I know you're like, long division, oh my God, I ain't done that since 4th or 5th grade. Man, I hated it back then. Why do I got to do it now? Obviously, I have a calculator. I promise you this. When I ask you to do something, I will always have a purpose shown to you by the end of the segment. I promise you, every time we do something as a group, I will be able to tell you why we did it and where we're going to use it. That's my word to you. So anytime I ask you to do something, just follow along, ask questions where you need the next morning, and I'll show you. But to remind you about long division, the first number is what we've got. We have 3, and we're going to divide it by 4 whatever, 4 people, 4 things. So I have 3, it's got to be cut up 4 ways. Obviously it's hard to do because it's hard to take 3 and divide it by 4 people because there's not enough to go around. Thus the decimal. So the starting number is 3. So 3 goes inside your long division, saying, okay, 3 is what I have, and what I'm going to chop it up with goes on the outside. So I have 3 divided by 4. So this is kind of weird, but the 3 goes inside and 4 goes on the outside. 3 is what we got, 4 is what we're chopping. Now, since I can't take 4 of 3, because there's not enough to go around, you put the decimal. Now it's easy because once you put the decimal, you can add a 0, and in fact you can add as many zeros as you want. Just as 3 made $3, I can keep adding zeros forever, and it's not a big deal as long as I only add zeros. So I'm going to skip this part because I just talked about it. So 4 goes into 3, but we're going to make 3.0. All you've got to do here is put the decimal above where the decimal is, and then you can scratch that out and not worry about it again. Once you put the decimal up there, get rid of that decimal. The decimal served its job. Now, the hard part of this is I have to figure out how many 4s can go into 30. Now, it's kind of like The Price is Right, where you can only go as close as you can without going over. For you who don't know, Price is Right is a game show hosted by Drew Carey, I think on CBS at 10 in the morning. Not a bad show. But anyway, the tricky part for some of you is I know not everyone's super sharp with their times tables, and I'm not trying to knock anybody, it's just what it is. So if you have trouble with times tables, what I want you to do is I want you to see me either first hour or when we have free time in math, and I have a program called Before You Know It. You do that, you get extra points with me, and believe me, it is not hard to get an A in my class. You do extra credit points, you do the assignments, you do the things I need you to do, points just show up. As long as you're willing to put in the extra time, there is no reason why you can't earn an A. But what times 4 gets me close to 30 and not over? If you know 4 times 7 makes 28, 4 times 8 is 32, which is too large, so we have to pick a 7. So we'll skip down here to 4 times 7. Again, we're going to ignore this dot And 4 times 7 makes 28. We're going to subtract 28. Here's why. Don't worry about the decimal. The decimal's just sitting there. Just 7 times 4 is 28. In other words, I'm saying since 7 times 4 is 28, I'm going to take 28 away from the 30, and I have to see what's left. So if you notice here, we're going to subtract, and we're going to make this into a 30, so 30 minus 28 is 2. Since I still have a number remaining, we're just going to add a 0. And now the 0 will come down. So now 20 divided by 4, or 4 times what makes 20? And I hope you know it's 5. So okay, 5 times 4 is 20. And from there, 5 times 4 is 20. We subtract said 20. And we put our 5 up there. And now we have 0. When we have 0, we're finished with our problem, 0.75. Oh, by the way, though, remember 3 divided by 4 is 3/4? Some of you might know that 3/4 equals 0.75. See how the fraction's actually easier than the decimal in this case? Won't be the last time. Here's another one. Let's try this. So we have 4. We're dividing by 4, and we start with 165. So we have 165 divided by 4. Can't take 1 divided by 4, but we can take 16 divided by 4. So we're going to put a 4 up here, because 4 times 4 is 16. Try to subtract that. And notice 4 times 4 is 16, leaves us 0. The 5 comes down. And 4 times what gets the closest to 5? Well, 4 times 1. 1 times 4 makes 4, so I subtract what's there. And now I have 1 remaining. Get you to the right page there. Excuse me. 1 remaining. Let's go back and do what I was doing. Excuse me. Alright, I have 1 remaining. Now, since I have 1 remaining, I'm going to put a decimal point here. I can add a 0. So decimal, decimal, add a 0. Now the 0 comes down. 4 goes into 10 2 times. 2 times 4 is 8. I have a 2 left. Add another 0. Add another 0. 4 times what makes 20? Put a 5. 4 times 5 is 20. Notice how it's 0. So our answer is 4.125. But I have another way to show you here. So we'll do the same thing. We'll go ahead and take 4 times 4 is 16. And then the 5 comes down. 4 times 1 is 4. Now take a look at what happens though. I have 1 left, right? Do you remember way back in grade school when they had you write remainder 1? And you didn't really know why, but you did. I suspect not everyone took it to its natural conclusion. You see, this isn't wrong, it's just there's one more thing to do with it. The remainder is 1, but it's still being divided by 4. So we divide by 4. And there's your answer, 41 1/4. Isn't that also the same as the 41.25 on the other problem? We're going to do some more of them to help you out. We'll skip past this here because we already did the 41.25, no problem there. Let's do a you try. Now remember, in a you try, you go ahead and try it and pause, and then I'll work it out with you. Go ahead this time. Okay, let's see how you did. Well, 122 divided by 5. 5 can't go into 1, but 5 can go into 12. So we have 2, which makes 10. 12 minus 10 is 2. This 2 comes down. 5 goes into 22 4 times, which takes away 20, leaving 2. Yes, you could just make 2/5, because 2 dividing by a 5, that would be perfectly acceptable. But for a decimal, no big deal. Put a decimal, decimal, 0, 0. 5 times 4 makes 20. And there's your answer. By the way, 24.4 also equals 24 and 2/5, just so you know. And the retro you try, if you notice, says the exact same thing. We'll do one more and then we're going to move on due to time. 41 divided by 8, go ahead and pause. Let's see how you did. 5 times 8 is 40, leaves 1. Since I have 1 left, I could just make 5 and 1/8, but what fun is that? I mean, really. So put a decimal, add a 0. So 1 becomes 10, 8. Take away 8 times 1, so 1 goes up here. 10 minus 8 is 2, take another 0. 2 times 8 is 16, 4 is left, add a 0. 8 times 4 is 5, which cancels, ends it up. It's fine. Would you believe that 0.125 is the same as 1/8? If you don't believe me, take your calculator and take 1 divided by 8 and notice how they're the same. Skills practice. This is the last thing I'm going to ask you to do. Every time you do a skills practice, remember, you do it at home, you write it out. If you want to turn it in to me for extra credit, I'll take it either home or beginning of class. Extra points. Yes, you're going to do it anyway in class, so you don't want to do it twice, you don't have to. But for those who like extra points, here's where it is. So, let's go ahead and give this a try, and then pause, and let's see how you did. Okay, let's see how you did. For this one here, did you get 64.4? Take a look. And 176. Take a look as I slowly scan this down. And I hope you got it. Now, the question this teen has to ask, and you might ask too, is why do I need to do this? Why can't I just use a calculator? Really, why should I waste my time with long division? And you would have a very valid point. Allow me to show you the proof that I promised you. There's more than one reason, but the reason why we do this is because in Algebra 1, you're going to be doing the exact same thing, except it's going to look like this. Not everyone's going to be able to understand this when they first see it. But I guarantee you, more than a few of you will understand with a very quick part here. Take this. If you remember from the beginning section, the very first lesson I showed you, if 2 times 2 equals 4, and 2 2's multiplied make 2 square, then why can't x times x just equal x square? And if that's the case, to turn this x into x square, what do I multiply x by to get x square? Well, it looks to me like x times x equals x square. So I put an x up here. X times x makes x square. X times 2 will make a thing called 2x. I'll explain that later. Remember from long division, if you're not adding, you're subtracting. So x squared minus x squared cancels. 5x minus 2x is 3x. The plus 6 comes down just like in long division. What times x will make 3x, and that's 3 times x. So I take 3 times x, which makes 3x. 3 times 2, which makes 6. Remember, you're subtracting. Leave 0. And congratulations, you just did part of Chapter 10 in Algebra 1 because you knew how to do long division. That's all for this segment. Thanks again. We'll talk tomorrow. Thanks again. Bye.